Have you ever found yourself, one of those moments where you just feel like you're constantly trying to keep all the plates spinning? Whether it's like the relentless pressure in school, or maybe your first job, or just the sheer volume of information and, honestly, often negative noise swirling around on social media. It can really feel like you're trying so hard to build something meaningful, something good in your life, but you keep running smack into unexpected obstacles. Or maybe even worse, you trip over your own feet right when you thought you had it all figured out. We hear a lot about the importance of grit, right? That resilience, that refusal to just give up. But sometimes doesn't it feel like there's got to be something more to it, something, I don't know, deeper than just pure willpower? So today we're taking a deep dive into a really practical message from Pastor Florin at Agape Community Church. And this isn't just about reviewing a sermon. It's more about unpacking what it truly means to live with both grit and grace, especially when life inevitably gets messy and, well, imperfect. Our source today is from his first sermon in a powerful series on the biblical letters to the Corinthians, specifically focusing on chapter 4. It's a message that speaks directly to perseverance and how to really live a meaningful life, even when things feel chaotic.
Yeah, and what's really interesting here is how Pastor Florin takes this ancient text, which is, profound stuff, and just breathes new life into it. He makes it incredibly relevant to the daily struggles and hopes we all face today. He talks about everything from dealing with disappointments that feel huge to just figuring out what actually matters amidst all the noise of our modern world. So our deep dive today, it's kind of like we're just friends talking, reflecting on this powerful message, really trying to internalize it in a deeper, more practical way. Because this isn't just theory, right? It's about understanding and living out what he calls the way of Jesus, practically, spiritually, and with a real sense of hope that actually anchors you in real life.
Yeah.
He really hits home that we're carrying something incredibly valuable, something divine, even with all our very human imperfections.
I love that framing, internalizing the message. Okay, so let's start unpacking this. Pastor Florin kicks things off by talking about how we are commissioned by God. Now, that's a phrase that might sound a bit grand, maybe even a little intimidating for some people, like getting a top secret mission, right? But what does that divine commission really mean for us, day to day? Is it supposed to be this heavy burden, or is it something else?
Oh, it's absolutely something else. When we connect this to the bigger picture, Pastor Florin helps us see that following Jesus isn't just about adopting a belief system or signing up for a list of rules. It's fundamentally an apprenticeship. You got to think about it like learning a really complex, life-changing craft directly from the master craftsman himself. You're not just given a task list, you're given a purpose, a mission, and it isn't something you just invent for yourself, but something handed down to you. And this is where the practical part, the practice component, becomes absolutely essential. It's dynamic. We learn by actually living out this commissioning in the real world. It's about embodying the principles, not just, reciting them.
Okay, so it's less like a one-time assignment and more like a continuous learning journey. Our lives become the workshop, basically. And he highlighted some really critical elements of this apprenticeship, this commissioning. He stressed the importance of perseverance. His simple advice, keep going. He also talked about honesty, urging us not to bamboozle people, but to just give it straight. And then there's transparency, meaning everything done in the open. He even gave those really concrete examples from Agape, like their public prayer wall and the ministry board being visible, powerful illustrations of that transparency commitment. It sounds like these aren't just nice ideas, they're core to this whole apprenticeship thing.
Exactly. And it's so important to get that these qualities, perseverance, honesty, transparency, they aren't just for religious people or folks in full-time ministry. They are foundational for anyone who's trying to live a meaningful, impactful life and build real trust, no matter what their path or beliefs are. They apply everywhere, right? In our closest relationships, our jobs, how we engage with society. These are principles for living with integrity and purpose, period.
Okay, now here's where the sermon really hits on something common. Pastor Florin makes it clear. As we embrace this commission, this apprenticeship, we should also expect to be opposed by evil. Now, that isn't just some abstract idea, right? For many of us, it feels incredibly real, especially when you're genuinely trying your best to do good, to make a positive difference. So, what does this opposition actually look like in our everyday lives?
Yeah, that's such a key question for us today. What form does this opposition take? Pastor Florin's message points to two kinds, distinct but often tangled up. First, there's what he called self-imposed opposition. This is that subtle stuff, like a refusal to really consider truth, or maybe turning a blind eye, or just not giving serious attention to what actually matters, like, as he put it, shooting yourself in the foot. You hinder your own progress by, well, not facing reality. Then the second kind is external opposition. This shows up as the evil of deception, where lies are deliberately dressed up as truth and truth gets dismissed as lies. He emphasized that the evil one wants you blind, unable to see clearly, unable to figure out what's real.
Wow, okay, so what does all this mean for us? Especially with just the sheer amount of information flying at us online all the time. It really feels like that refusal to consider or being blinded can happen so easily when you're just scrolling,
Mhm.
just passively consuming content without really thinking critically about it. It's almost like the constant information overload, the echo chambers we get stuck in, and yeah, the spread of misinformation. It acts like a modern version of this opposition. It makes it incredibly hard to tell what's actually true or important.
It absolutely does. The sermon's points about deception feel incredibly relevant in our digital world today. Trying to sort truth from falsehood can be just relentless, exhausting work. It really highlights how much we need discernment, not just in obviously spiritual or moral stuff, but in every single interaction we have with information. And this isn't about becoming cynical, right? It's about developing like an internal compass to help you navigate all the noise. That's a core skill for any young person today, with all the conflicting stories we run into constantly.
But here's the part that just blew my mind. And honestly, it feels incredibly freeing, especially when you think about all the pressure to be perfect. Pastor Florin talks about us being messengers of light, but then says this incredible divine light is held in something as seemingly insignificant as clay jars. Like we're talking cosmic, eternal light in what? Deuce ordinary basic pottery. What's the deal with that huge contrast?
Well, what's so fascinating and frankly humbling here is exactly that contrast. He describes us as ordinary, basic, and fragile, like those chipped ancient pots you see in museums, the kind that could break really easily. Pastor Flan even shared his own story about dealing with tennis elbow, a very human physical problem, reminding us that our bodies themselves are fragile vessels. And the powerful message is that God's power isn't and actually can't be confused with our strength or our brilliance or our perfection. This is so critical for young people today who often feel this massive pressure to project a flawless image like online or to achieve these impossible standards of perfection. Our clay jar status reminds us that our brokenness, our imperfections, our struggles, they don't cancel out or diminish the divine light God chooses to put within us. In fact, sometimes maybe our cracks are where the light shines out the brightest.
That idea is just incredibly liberating, isn't it? It totally shifts the focus away from our own flaws and onto the limitless power and grace that can work through us despite them. It means our struggles aren't actually obstacles to our purpose. Maybe they even highlight God's strength in a way our own perfection never could. So this raises an important question for you, the listener. Have you ever been really hurt or deeply disappointed by someone you looked up to? Maybe even someone who claimed to be a follower of Jesus. Pastor Florin hits his head on. He says, don't miss the light because of a broken pot. He even jokingly calls the church the island of misfit toys, starting with himself. It's such a powerful reminder that the ultimate focus has to be on Jesus, always, not on his imperfect, fragile servants. He really hammered home that we are all broken somehow, and that brokenness should never overshadow the amazing indwelling light God puts in us.
And it goes even deeper than that. When we really grasp this idea of ourselves as clay jars carrying this immense treasure, it changes our whole approach to life. It tells us our value doesn't come from our outward appearance or our perfect performance, but from the divine commission we carry inside. That gives us an incredible foundation for humility, for resilience, and for genuine compassion for ourselves and for others too.
Okay, so if we're these light-carrying broken pots called to this ongoing apprenticeship, what exactly is our job description then? Pastor Florin calls it a mission of proclamation, and he likens us to errand messengers. He paints this really vivid picture, like imagine finding an amazing hidden gem restaurant or tasting your friend's incredible homemade pie.
Yeah.
You just have to tell everyone about it. It's not about being pushy or, self-righteous, but just sharing something that's genuinely good.
Right. And when we connect that to the bigger picture, this mission of proclamation is really about living out the kingdom of God. This is foundational stuff. When we decide to follow Jesus, to become his apprentices, we get adopted into God's family, his nation, what we call the kingdom of God. And it's really important to understand that the kingdom of God isn't some vague, far-off idea. It's a real nation, here and now, with its own specific heritage, its own distinct culture, and a unique set of values that often clash with the world around us. Jesus himself told his followers in Matthew 6:33 to seek first God's kingdom and his righteousness, because everything else, everything we think, do, or say, all our priorities, our choices, our lives rests on that foundation. So our proclamation isn't just about converting people to a belief system. It's about sharing this incredible hope, this pie, as Pastor Florin put it, because it's truly good, truly life-changing. It's like an invitation to join a new kind of family, a new citizenship.
That makes so much sense. It's inviting people into this different way of living that you found. And he really brings this whole message home by telling us never give up. He frames this perseverance with an eternal perspective. He says, what seems like big stuff here on earth, all our current struggles and disappointments, they're ultimately small potatoes compared to the vastness of eternity. It challenges us not to sweat the small stuff of eternity, but to keep going, to persevere with that long-term eternal view always in mind. It's about understanding that our current struggles, no matter how overwhelming they feel right now, are temporary when you look at the much bigger eternal reality and purpose. It reframes resilience not as just gritting your teeth, but as purposeful, hopeful endurance.
Exactly. And this eternal perspective, it isn't about minimizing our real pain or just dismissing our immediate challenges. Not at all. Instead, it recontextualizes them. It helps us see that our earthly actions, even the ones that seem small or insignificant, they actually gain cosmic significance within that eternal framework. It means that a simple act of kindness today, or a quiet moment of just keeping going or deciding to live with integrity, it isn't just about this moment. It's an investment in a reality that outlasts all our current worries and temporary successes. And that understanding profoundly shifts how we approach everyday decisions.
So let's bring it all back down to earth. How do we practically apply these really powerful insights from Pastor Florin's sermon in our daily lives, especially as young people trying to navigate this complex world?
Well, Pastor Florin offers 3 super practical applications, straight from the text, for living a grounded, earthly life, but with that eternal perspective always in mind. First, he says, engage the mission, expect opposition. Basically, this means when you fall and heads up, you will fall, you get back up. Don't hide from God or from the mission you've been given. It's about a consistent commitment to persevere, to be honest, and to be transparent, even when it's really hard. It means being honest about your struggles, transparent about your intentions, and just stubbornly refusing to quit your apprenticeship.
That's a tough one, especially when failure can feel so public these days. Okay, and the second application he offers.
Second, don't miss the light because of a broken pot. This one is so crucial. Even people we look up to, even those who say they follow Jesus, they will inevitably fail you. They will hurt you. We are all broken vessels. The core message here is, keep your focus on Jesus, on the divine light itself, not on the flaws or the shortcomings of his followers. This is especially vital for young people who might be dealing with disappointment in others, or maybe experiencing what people call church hurt. It's a call to look beyond human imperfection to the perfect source of that light.
That's incredibly freeing, honestly. It takes the pressure off people having to be perfect and puts the focus back where it belongs.
Right.
What's the third application?
The third is to live earthly lives with eternity in mind. Now, this isn't a call to be so eternally minded that you just ignore the practical real needs right in front of you. Actually, it's the opposite. It means understanding that living with an eternal perspective should compel us to act with compassion and kindness right here, right now. Pastor Florin gave examples like feeding the hungry, maybe through local food banks or church ministries, and just performing consistent, genuine acts of kindness in your community. It's about letting the eternal reality motivate your everyday, practical love for other people.
Okay, so building on those applications, what does this mean for our immediate, daily actions? Pastor Florin gave 3 really clear, actionable steps we can take right away. The first is join the action, ministry of presence. This isn't necessarily about doing huge things, but about simply being present with people. Whether you're at a construction site, like his example, or a school event, or just hanging out with friends, it's about prioritizing the people over just the task or the agenda. He shared that powerful story about his friend Gary, who couldn't physically help much on that construction site because of health stuff, but he showed up just to be there, to watch over Pastor Florin. That presence, that shared space was vital. It shows that often just showing up is the biggest ministry.
That's such a profound point, and one we often overlook, right? Prioritizing people over tasks, or what we think of as productivity. In a world that's constantly pushing us to do more, Pastor Florin reminds us that real impact often happens just by showing up and genuinely being there for others, creating space for connection. It's about offering empathy and solidarity, not just rushing in with solutions.
Exactly. And the second clear action Pastor Florin gives us is to stop looking at using social media for venting brokenness. Wow, this is so relevant for our generation. He strongly advises turning off or blocking those triggering posts that just highlight jar brokenness. the imperfections and negativity of others, or even our own. He says, don't vent your own clay jar online, just pouring out your brokenness for everyone to see. Instead, call a trusted friend, a Christian friend, someone you can actually talk to directly. This connects so directly to that practical need of navigating social media's huge impact on mental health and how we see ourselves, especially for young people. It's about protecting your own peace and actively choosing not to get sucked into cycles of negativity or comparison.
That is incredibly practical and timely advice for today's world. It's a great reminder that our online interactions, they're choices, and they can either build us up or tear us down, and not just ourselves, but others too. Avoiding that trap of constant comparison, judgment, or just public venting on social media is absolutely essential for keeping a healthy perspective, emotional resilience, and integrity in our clay jar lives. It's about using discernment and self-control in a space almost designed to wear it down.
Totally. And finally, the third action Pastor Florin calls us to is focus on one. And this has two really powerful sides to it. First, focus on one person. Maybe it's a neighbor, a friend, a coworker, with a simple intention to bless them or just be kind. The message is, don't try to change the whole world overnight. Instead, focus on changing one person's world through a simple act of love or grace. And the second side of it is to have an audience of one, God. Be primarily concerned with what God thinks and desires, not with external validation, not with likes or the opinions of other people. That's a profoundly challenging but also really liberating reminder to line up our motives and actions with what truly matters eternally.
And that audience of one perspective, it radically simplifies life, doesn't it? It just strips away all the anxiety of trying to please everyone or measure up to these impossible standards. It's a direct call to be radically authentic, freeing us up to live out our commissioning, imperfections and all, knowing that our real value is already set in the eyes of the one who truly matters. It's about that quiet, consistent faithfulness that builds up into a life well lived.
So wrapping up, what stands out to you the most from this deep dive today? This incredible idea that we are at the same time these fragile clay jars and carriers of an incredible cosmic light, called to an apprenticeship under Jesus. It really challenges us to rethink what strength and purpose and even success look like in a world that demands outward perfection. It feels like it's all about actively practicing living at the kingdom of God, embracing grace, even or maybe especially in our messes. It really is a journey of grit and grace together.
Absolutely. Remember, the journey of following Jesus, it really is an apprenticeship, a practical hands-on learning experience where that grit and grace have to go hand in hand. It's not about being flawless. It's about being faithful. And don't ever let the brokenness of the pot, your own or someone else's, distract you from the incredible light that lives within you and the boundless grace that surrounds you as you navigate this life. Your imperfections don't disqualify you. Often they're what illuminate the very power you carry.
So true. Well, if this deep dive was helpful for you, or maybe gave you something new to think about and chew on, please take a moment to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And maybe share it with a friend who you think might benefit from this message. Help spread the light. And also, if you have a prayer request, please know that our prayer team would love to pray specifically for you. You can submit requests online at agapechurch.life. Also, check out our YouTube channel. We're building it out with more content. It's still a work in progress, definitely. But we're constantly getting better, and there's more stuff there for you to explore. Thanks for joining us.